This larger-than-life statue of New York's master builder Robert Moses, who was also larger than life, stands alongside the village of Babylon's town hall. A plaque in front of it reads, "Robert Moses, 1888 to 1981, was responsible for more building than any single person since the pharaohs ruled Egypt. Between 1924 and 1968, Moses was the dominant and sometimes controversial figure in the creation of extraordinary public works in New York City and New York State. A resident of Thompson Avenue in Babylon Village, Moses is world-renowned for creating the modern concept of the state park and the superhighway. With an eye to the future, Moses preserved the integrity of the Long Island shoreline while creating a legacy for future generations." In 1924, Robert Moses asked New York Governor Al Smith to make him president of the Long Island State Park Commission. This is Carl's Creek in the South Shore village of Babylon, Long Island. Robert Moses' summer home was on this property before it burned 3 decades ago. Behind the house was Moses' motorboat, a putt-putter that his wife Mary called the Bob. Moses would use this boat to explore the Great South Bay, and this is how he discovered Jones Beach, which was otherwise inaccessible. When Robert Moses took the Long Island Railroad from Babylon to Manhattan, he never did learn how to drive. He started to notice stretches of undeveloped forests containing lakes and streams north of the tracks. He found out that New York City owned 3,500 acres of land that were part of the old Brooklyn water supply. Sunrise Highway was built along the water main's right-of-way, which was renamed Conduit Boulevard in Queens. This section of North Conduit Boulevard is in North Ozone Park, formerly Aqueduct, for the water pipe that fed Ridgewood Reservoir. The racetrack name retains the watery link to the past. Moses noticed that most of the South Shore New York City water properties were in a line. By connecting the dots, much of the right-of-way for the Southern State Parkway would be available without condemning private property. One of the properties at Wantagh led to the Great South Bay, and Moses envisioned the Wantagh Parkway and Causeway to Jones Beach in an instant. Today there are 2 more causeways to the Long Island mainland, the Meadowbrook to the west and the Robert Moses Causeway at Jones Beach's east end. This is the spot where ground was broken for Jones Beach in December of 1926. The ornamental tower inspired by the St. Mark's Campanile or Bell Tower in Venice contains a 300,000-gallon tank that supplies drinking and bathing water for the park. It is fed by 4 1,200-foot pipes which draw fresh water from the aquifer. As you can see, this landmark is undergoing restoration. Parking field number 4, with a capacity of over 5,000 vehicles, was probably the largest in America when Jones Beach opened. To reach the shore safely, beachgoers walked through this tunnel beneath Ocean Parkway. Although this pedestrian underpass is over 80 years old, it is still in very good condition. Beneath me is a mosaic of a seahorse, which was the official symbol of Jones Beach. Behind me is the East Bathhouse, which contains enough lockers to serve 10,000 bathers. This is the observation deck of the East Bathhouse, where you can enjoy the scenery and sit sheltered from the hot sun. When Robert Moses walked by New York City's Barbizon Hotel, he was impressed by the multi-hued bricks that formed its facade. He insisted on using costly Barbizon bricks because he felt that the red, tan, and brown colors complemented the sand. The natural blue, gray, and tan hues of another expensive material, Ohio sandstone, motivated Robert Moses to choose it for the bathhouse facades. He felt it echoed the colors of the sea, sand, and sky. This is the West Bathhouse, one of 2 built for Jones Beach. The cost of each was $1 million, a sum that had been allocated for the entire Long Island State Park system. The high cost of the bathhouses was due to Moses' insistence on using materials that had never before been used in public bathhouse construction.
You'll see the two-headed lamb, Lambini.
Robert Moses was determined to keep Jones Beach from becoming another Coney Island, Brooklyn's crowded beach at the end of several subway lines. He would not allow carnival midway games and thrill rides or freak shows. Jones Beach had a games area, but they were respectable games, such as miniature golf, shuffleboard, archery, and paddle tennis. Even Governor Franklin Roosevelt, a bitter Moses foe, said that Jones Beach was the best money the state had ever spent.
I vacationed at all the best places, and the Jones Beach is the greatest. And that goes for whatever is your status. There's swimming in the pool, ocean or bay, golfing and dating and other great sport. Why waste your money on a resort? There's green grass and flowers along the way to the beach and the boardwalk cafe, where you can view the waves and lovers holding hands on the sand in the sunlight. Then they dance and romance on the boardwalk in the moonlight as they stroll to the big show at the bay. Our Jones Beach has great romance, where you meet a lovely lady by chance. Here you're overwhelmed with sunshine, joy and laughter, and you feel like you found your here and ever after. Our Jones Beach is so heavenly.
I'm at the northwest corner of Long Island, adjacent to Astoria Park, with the roiling waters of Hellgate behind me. The Triborough suspension bridge is framed by the New York Connecting Railroad Bridge. Both spans employed a Swiss engineer by the name of Othmar Ammann, who would subsequently build 3 more bridges for Robert Moses: the Whitestone, Throgs Neck, and Verrazano Narrows bridges. Work on the Whitestone Bridge began less than 6 months after Triborough's opening on July 11, 1936. This is the Robert Moses Building, originally Triborough Bridge Authority. Because of security reasons, we can't show the real thing, so we'll use this model that was almost at the center of a piece commissioned by Moses for the New York City building at the 1964-65 World's Fair. It was the largest architectural model ever built at the time. The $60 million Triborough Bridge arterial road system, now officially known as Robert F. Kennedy Bridge, was actually a viaduct and 3 bridges, the most familiar of which was the suspension bridge linking Queens to Ward's Island. The vertical lift bridge from Manhattan to Randall's Island was the largest one of its kind. The triple truss bridge to the Bronx was built with easy conversion to a lift bridge should the need ever arise. This is the Queens anchorage of what Moses called an arterial road system. It was here that the municipal engineers who worked on Triborough assembled for a picnic in December of 1931. Robert Moses became the sole executive officer of the Triborough Bridge Authority when Mayor LaGuardia dismissed Do-Nothing Commissioner O'Leary in 1934 after the Triborough project had languished since its 1929 groundbreaking. Less than 2.5 years after appointing Moses Triborough chairman, LaGuardia stood at President Franklin Roosevelt's side at the opening day ceremony on Randall's Island. Now motorists from the Bronx and Westchester could drive to the Long Island parks without passing through congested Manhattan. One part of the legacy of Robert Moses that is often overlooked is that in addition to building bridges and parkways, he built over 600 neighborhood parks and playgrounds. Here, under the Queen's approach to the Triborough Bridge, is an example of how Moses turned leftover parcels of land that were not suitable for residential use into a quarter-mile-long recreational oasis where shade was provided not by palm trees but by bridge infrastructure. The centerpiece of Astoria Park is Astoria Pool. Tryouts for the 1936 Olympics were held here the week that the Triborough Bridge opened. The pool, one of many which ranged from a few square yards to Olympic-sized, will reopen in late June for the summer. This is one of two Art Deco pylons marking the transition from the Grand Central Parkway extension to Triborough Plaza and the bridge. Although the federal appropriation for Triborough was for the bridge and its approaches, Moses was able to persuade the government that 14 miles of approach highways be included. As a result, Triborough became the first bridge in New York history that allowed the motorist to continue after the crossing without having to stop for a traffic light by feeding into a multi-lane, limited-access highway. The Grand Central Parkway extension from the original Parkway terminus at Queens Boulevard went north alongside the former Brooklyn ash removal dump in Flushing Meadow until it reached Northern Boulevard. In order to connect it to Triborough, Moses extended the North Queens shoreline over 100 yards into Flushing Bay by sinking bulkheads and filling in with sand barged up the East River from the Rockaways to make land for the parkway. This avoided a prohibitively expensive condemnation proceeding to remove the waterside homes. As a way of returning access to the Flushing Bay waterfront, Moses built this pedestrian bridge that traverses 8 lanes of the Grand Central Parkway extension between LaGuardia Airport and the New York Mets Citi Field ballpark. This is the Kew Gardens interchange where the Grand Central Parkway and its extension meet Union Turnpike, the Jackie Robinson Parkway, formerly the Interborough Parkway to Brooklyn, and Queens Boulevard. It is known as the Pretzel because of resemblance to one from the air. It is reminiscent of the Triborough Bridge Junction in its ability to sort multiple roadways without any signals or intersections. It became more complex in the 1950s when the Van Wyck Expressway was built. The Bronx-Whitestone Bridge opened one day before the 1939 World's Fair. Robert Moses praised its slender design, but after a similarly proportioned span designed by the same man collapsed into Puget Sound just months after opening, he ordered changes. In 1940, stake cables were added to reduce sway. In 1946, Warren trusses replaced the pedestrian walkways and a tuned mass damper was installed in 1986. Most of the trusses were removed when triangular fiberglass fairings were added to slice the wind along the bridge's sides, making it more aerodynamic. Parts of Brooklyn's Belt Parkway were created by huge machines that sucked up sand from the bay's floor and placed it where Moses ordered it. The Belt was part of Moses's dream for Brooklyn and Queens, a circumferential parkway that girdled the two boroughs. The Cross Island Parkway, Whitestone Expressway, Grand Central Parkway Extension, the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, Gowanus Expressway and Shore Parkway complete the loop that on a rare, good day can be navigated without stopping. The Long Island Expressway, seen here in Bayside, Queens, was the last major highway that Moses built. Its construction began in Queens in the 1950s along the right-of-way of the former Nassau Boulevard. By the late 60s, it was completed almost to Riverhead, Suffolk County. Moses biographer Robert Caro criticized the expressway for not including a rail corridor during construction, thus dooming Long Island to decades of urban sprawl. The Throgs Neck Bridge opened in 1961 and was the next to last bridge that Moses and designer Aman would collaborate on. It was the third crossing from Long Island's North Shore to the Bronx and was supposed to connect to the South Shore via the partially built Clearview Expressway. Notice the unusual location of the Queens anchorage in Little Neck Bay. The view was north on the Clearview Expressway, which was to provide an alternate truck route from the Throgs Neck Bridge to the South Shore and Kennedy Airport. The current Grand Central Parkway overpass is purely utilitarian, unlike its 1933 Rainbow Arch predecessor. Clearview was named after the Bayside golf course from which it obtained the right-of-way. Protests by the residents of Queens Village, who burned Moses in effigy, were able to halt Clearview at Hillside Avenue, a truncated highway to nowhere. When the original section of the Grand Central Parkway was widened in the early 60s from 4 undivided lanes, in preparation for the World's Fair, Robert Moses found an ingenious solution to make room for the 6 divided lanes of Parkway and 6 lanes of service roads. He cantilevered the service roads out over the depressed Parkway to avoid condemning dozens of homes between this overpass at 164th Street and Parsons Boulevard. The widened Parkway still contains many curves as it was built along the terminal moraine of the last ice age. Robert Moses wanted to build the biggest, tallest, longest suspension bridge in the world when he and designer Othmar Aman collaborated on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge between Bay Ridge, Brooklyn and Staten Island. This stunning bridge's towers are 70 stories tall and are so far apart that the tops are 1 5/8 inches further apart than the bases because of the curvature of the earth. The Verrazano, which opened in 1964, was the last major project that Robert Moses would build for New York City and its final bridge over navigable waters. Plans for a Long Island crossing from Rye, New York, seen here, that would link it to the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway had been discussed for decades since the 1950s. Robert Moses said that the North Shore village of Bayville was the only obvious and feasible location for the Oyster Bay Rye Bridge. Governor Rockefeller originally supported the project and then reversed himself in 1973, sensing that the political cost of the crossing would be too high. In 2007, a Long Island developer proposed a 16-mile tunnel as an alternative. Activists on both sides of the Sound sharply opposed the idea. On July 24, 1981, at the age of 92, Robert Moses died of heart failure in Good Samaritan Hospital in West Islip, New York, where he had been taken from his summer house in Gilgo Beach. A funeral service was held at St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Bayshore. Moses was buried in Woodlawn Cemetery in the New York City borough of the Bronx. In 1997, the State Department of Transportation undertook the widening of Northern State Parkway from 4 to 6 lanes. The term parkway had a double meaning, a way to the parks, but also a ribbon park in itself. Moses had insisted in creating a network of limited access roads that, through zoning and careful landscaping, gave the motorist the illusion of driving through a beautiful green space. The Department of Transportation saved as much of the stone facing from the original overpasses, which many felt were designed to limit access to buses. Stonemasons brought their tools right to the parkway site and carefully integrated newly cut pieces with those salvaged from the 30s era bridges over the Northern State Parkway. This was part of the section that Moses had agreed to reroute to avoid the Wheatley Hills estates of the robber baron. Although the heights of the overpasses were raised in keeping with modern highway design, the appearance of the rebuilt spans were a tribute to the vision of New York's master builder, Robert Moses. On August 4, 1999, the New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation and its then Commissioner Bernadette Castro of convertible sofa fame hosted a public party celebrating the 70th birthday of Jones Beach. Hundreds of grateful Long Islanders attended the celebration at the Central Mall of the world's finest public beach, named after 17th century privateer Major Thomas Jones.
Memories you have, Jones Beach has always been number one in our hearts. Robert Moses has such foresight that we still enjoy it today as we did so many years ago. And to celebrate the 70th birthday today as part of this week-long celebration, we bring you someone who knows Jones Beach very well and a very, very good personal friend of mine, the Commissioner of Parks, State Commissioner of Parks, Bernadette Castro, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all so much. This is a really wonderful day to celebrate. So special. Have you ever seen a cake this wonderful? And don't worry, the first 1,000 people are going to get a piece, so you're protected. Need not worry. I bring you greetings from Governor Pataki. He loves Jones Beach. He gave us a lot of money last year in the budget, and I think we're going to look for a little this year so that we can keep improving and restoring Jones Beach to the wonder that it was when Robert Moses, the genius, planned what we are enjoying today from barrier beaches that you couldn't even get to.
Well, we're talking with Elaine Morrell, and she's showing off her wonderful bracelet from the year 1939, and it says the Jones Beach Pool Show. How you doing, Elaine?
Doing great.
Okay. So tell us what your connection is with Jones Beach.
Well, I swam there from 1937 to 1941, and the war ended the pool shows.
Right.
I swam in the pool shows and the bay shows.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wearing the same sarong that I made in 1937.
Wow.
And I wore it for 2 years in the bay shows, not in the pool.
Right.
You had a uniform and caps, but in the bay show you made your own costume.
What can you tell us about Mr. Moses? You have any stories about his...
Nothing whatsoever, except I think he's the greatest man that there was.
Uh-huh.
He just made Long Island.
Hi there, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Rick Stryker.
Yeah, and of course we're celebrating the 70th anniversary of Jones Beach, and I see you have a letter in your hand.
Yes.
And that letter purports to be from Robert Moses.
Yes, I'm very proud of this
Now, who
letter.
was Robert Moses?
Robert Moses, well, one of the things he did that I know most about is the master planner of Jones Beach.
Uh-huh.
That we were all enjoying so much.
Right. And what does that letter from Mr. Moses to you say?
It says, it's dated August 4th, 1980.
Right.
Thank you for your interesting recent letter and the cassette with your amusing Long Island and Jones Beach songs. Indeed, Long Island does have everything, but most of all, Jones Beach. I've vacationed at many fine places, and Jones Beach is the greatest. And that goes for whatever is yours.
Status, they're swimming in the pool, ocean or bay, golfing and dating and other great sport. Why waste your money on a resort? There's green grass and flowers along the way to the beach and the boardwalk cafe, where you can view the waves and lovers holding hands on the sand in the sunlight. Then they dance and romance on the boardwalk in the moonlight as they stroll to the big show at the Bay. Our Jones Beach has great romance, where you meet a lovely lady by chance. Here you're overwhelmed with sunshine, joy and laughter, and you feel like you found your here and ever after. Our Jones Beach is so happy.